Hello and welcome to Miniature Realms. So, how many wargaming projects is too many? Now, apologies if this video is in danger of becoming a little bit gimmicky. It's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek, but if you've watched my recent hobby diaries, you'll be aware that balancing hobby projects and not having too many is something that's been on my mind recently. I've discussed it with my co-host on Out of the Frying Pan, Dan. He's a very good friend of mine, and he has a very different approach to me. He likes to keep his project backlog small and complete things before he moves on to the next. Doesn't mean he hasn't got things in his backlog, but compared to a lot of hobbyists, it's very, very small and manageable, even if he doesn't think it is. And I guess it's all relative, isn't it? And it's all relative to what we're happy with, what we're happy with sitting in boxes, what we're happy with in terms of a plan and a list that you may deviate from, and we all have things that are acceptable and things that aren't. So I wanted to go through my own hobby projects a little bit, and you're well aware of them watching this channel, but sort of show you some of the backlog I've got and how I organise it and how I at the moment are happy with it, and on where the balance might tip too far from my experiences in the past and things. Now, a few years ago I had lots and lots of wargaming projects on. I was playing War Machine, I was looking at getting into 40k, so I had a project for that, one for Fantasy stroke Age of Sigmar, and lots of smaller games. I think I first purchased Sharp's Practice with the idea of building a small force for that. I was playing with Saga, maybe buying models, not actually playing with them, and the list goes on and on. There was a large number of projects, probably exceeding double figures, all different rule sets and things as well. And I learned a lot from that at that period, and I pretty much sold everything off. And then in the probably 5 or 6 years since that point, I played Horus Heresy pretty much on its own. And then when that waned, I moved into playing Middle-earth strategy battle game pretty much on its own. And I always knew I'd want to do other things in the future, but I found that I was much more successful focusing on one game system. Now, yes, this year things have changed. You know, if you watch the channel, that I'm doing a lot of historical projects. So I've had to find ways of making sure I've organised my projects in a way that I can compartmentalise them, so I'm happy with the way they're balanced, and I'm happy that I'm able to keep up with them, but also that I actually can keep up with them, and there is time set aside for them so they don't fall by the wayside and doesn't be a waste of money. So I've got some examples of both good and bad in that, but I thought we'd have a little look at some of the projects I've got, and you can kind of see and how I organise things. I mean, it's very much a personal thing, but it may help some people think about their own projects and whether they got too many, maybe they got time to do more and they never really thought about it. And I'd love to have your comments and feedback afterwards. What do you do? How do you manage your project load? Should we call it project load? It's not a word, is it? But anyway, let's have a little look at some of my projects. Now, that's quite a lot. That's most of a 6x4 table full of projects from recent times, really. There are a few other things knocking around. So there's a couple of Kickstarters that I never really got around to doing much with. The Harry Potter game looks fun, but the rules are a nightmare to read and follow. And then the Devil's Run Route 66 was years ago, long before any of the sort of current like Gaslands and things like that have come out. So, and there's some lovely resin miniature cars in there, but again, it's never been dealt with. But they're box games. I can put them on a shelf and be happy that maybe one day I'll get them out and do something with them, especially when my lad gets a little bit older. And I've also got Adeptus Titanicus. I've got a small mana pool painted, got a couple of Warhounds to add, but nothing of the new stuff, and I've not been playing it for a while, and I'm happy for that to sit on the shelf as well. It's not, there's terrains all there, I've got the rules and things, so yeah, I can pick it up and play it if I really, really want to. And again, that's part of how I balance what I keep, what I get rid of, what projects are healthy. If I can put it in a box on the shelf, or if it's a painted miniature that sort of sits on the shelf and looks nice enough, then again, I'm quite happy for it to be there. What's a concern is when you've got piles and piles of unbuilt and unpainted stuff. That's one of the issues. But let's delve in a little bit closer to some of the things we've got over on the table anyway. So here we are with Middle-earth strategy battle game, something that's mentioned on the channel but not talked about in a great deal because I have the Out of the Frying Pan outlet for that. Now, the box set there has got more, all these boxes have got more than just what was originally in them. So we have the Pelennor Fields box set, and I think now that's pretty much got, along with loads of extras, a pretty sizable Mordor army based on what you get in the box and quite a few extra characters, a great beast of Gorgoroth, if you know what that is, loads of stuff. So that's a Mordor army sitting there waiting to go. And then in this Hobbit box, well, I've painted all of the goblins from the box, but there's other things in there as well. So there's the dwarves to go. There's not so much in that one. And then behind there's unfinished boxes. That's a box of Rangers. This is a box of Warriors of Minas Tirith. We've got another box of Warriors of Minas Tirith. And you can see that we're starting to build up lots of stuff here. And you can see the dust on it as well. In this big box here, where was the Rohan Stronghold terrain kits. Now they're all built and painted for the event I didn't get to run because of COVID. And what have we got inside? Again, lots and lots and lots of miniatures that are unfinished projects. Things that were bought on made to order, so limited time, just in case I wanted them. Some extra Moria Night Goblins, which I'll never get around to doing. Kurdan, the shipwright, didn't even know I had him, another made to order. And I know within the boxes here, and in sprues under here, I've got a pretty sizable Minas Tirith army as well, and I've got a Galadrim elf army, and I've now got a Rivendell elf army with some things that were given. Now, it's all starting to add up, and that starts to sort of ring alarm bells to me. Well, it would have done in the past. 2 boxes at the back. The top one is all Rohan stuff, and the bottom one was all Isengard. So that's a lot of Middle-earth, but I've got a kind of a different relationship with Middle-earth strategy battle game that I have with other war games, and this really helps with me getting around. And this isn't a backdoor to get around my own personal rules about having too many projects, but I'm such a big fan of Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth, The Hobbit. I love the films, I love the books, that I'm happy to just collect this stuff and have it for all eternity. And once I've painted the models, I won't be getting rid of them. Now, I'm not planning on collecting every miniature that Games Workshop has ever made for it. The plan for the armies are things that were in the films, not things that were added by Games Workshop afterwards. So I would have things that are just in the books as well. So there's a new range coming out soon, which is all based around War in the North and the second Battle of Dale, which isn't covered in the films, which is only a few lines in the appendices. But what I mean is, in the Moria army, for example, you can get characters, goblin characters and goblin wolf riders and things that you don't see in the film so much. I'm not so worried about some of the models that are inventions by Games Workshop within the lore. I'm quite happy to kind of slim those factions down a little bit. But anyway, that's more of a discussion for Out of the Frying Pan podcast than it is for Miniature Realms as a channel. But it does mean that I'm happy with boxes and boxes of this stuff sitting on shelves for projects that I haven't quite got around to yet. And there's more Middle-earth. Let me cut to some of that now. And then I've decided it's a lot easier just to pop images up rather than have shaky cam at these points. But as you can see, crammed in those project boxes which are on the walls above my desk, and I think you've seen them before when I did the tour of the office, is my Ents that I've started to build recently. I've got some unfinished character models. I've got a whole Defenders of Helm's Deep list, so all the foot Rohan, which is the other half of the Rohan you've got in boxes over there. I've got an Azog's army that needs finishing, and I've got some Iron Hills that need adding. So there's quite a few projects halfway through. So again, you just see that the volume is huge, and my list of things that I want to do within the Middle-earth hobby is a lot larger than what I have here. But I probably won't be purchasing too much more until I've got through some of the backlog. But new things keep coming out. But anyway, I can put that to one side and class that as Middle-earth, which is a big thing. Let's go over to some of the other things. Absolutely no surprise there to see loads and loads of American Civil War stuff. I've bought into pretty much everything. Those who have followed those videos on the channel will know that there's only sort of 2 items that I've not purchased from the whole range. It's my biggest project, probably, in terms of one individual thing. If you class Lord of the Rings as maybe a few separate ones, but it's my biggest project overall. It's my biggest historical project, and I'm very, very comfortable that it's going to take me into probably Q1 of 2022 to get it all finished, and maybe longer depending on what else comes up. There's so much there that I will get to a point where I can play some pretty sizable games but still have absolutely loads and loads and loads of it left. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm comfortable with it, though if something comes along in the future, so in the future I'd like to do Napoleonics in a similar scale, then I will know that that will need to be finished first, because I can't have two projects of that scale coming along, and Napoleonics will be definitely that kind of scale. And then if I again show you a couple of images rather than giving you shaky cam all over the place, my Wars of the Roses and Bolt Action projects are also my other two historical. So I've really got, the way I compartmentalise it, I've got 4 projects. I've got the Epic ACW, I've got the Bolt Action one, I've got my Wars of the Roses in 10mm, and I have Middle Earth. And that's how I get my head round what looks like a massive amount of projects that was enough to make my head explode, and would definitely make my co-host out of the frying pan, Dan. He wouldn't settle with it. He'd sell stuff, he'd get it out of his way. But I'm happy with that. If I regard Middle Earth luckily as one project, and I just do one part of it at a time, and I'm happy to keep it all sitting in boxes because I never want to sell it, then I can deal with these other 3 historical projects. Now, if I had loads of other historical projects, then I'll be thinking about whether I could afford to keep them all. There'd be different set of rules for that side of my hobby than there is for the Lord of the Rings, which brings me neatly onto these 2 big boxes at the back. Now, this was the start of my return to historical gaming, and it's another my blame Martin, unfortunately, but watching Seventh Son's Napoleonic Black Powder battle reports over the winter, I knew that I had to get back into historical game, and I decided to do it. And I thought, right, I'm going to do Napoleonics. I'm going to do 2 factions because I don't know if anyone locally is going to play enough. I think there's one guy locally who's got a British army, so I thought, well, I want British as well, but if I collect French, I can still play him. So I thought, right, that's it, and I went in a really big way, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then the American Civil War stuff came along, and it kind of derailed it. And then from starting the American Civil War stuff, I realised that Napoleonics in 28mm, from the way I wanted to play the game, was completely the wrong scale. So it's been sitting in boxes ever since. And this is the problem side of having too many projects. So they need to be sorted or go. So let's have a little closer look at what I got. So time for the shaky cam. Let's look at how much I bought just around Christmas time, really, to get started in this. And as I think I've already mentioned, the idea was to have 2 almost divisions, and I was basing it on a part of Salamanca, and I won't go into too much more detail than that because this isn't a vlog video for a failed project. This is just to show you where it can go wrong, and why I'd like to take a little bit more time thinking about and planning now. And to be fair, I've been a bit harsh on myself here. I really wanted to do this project, and if Epic ACW hadn't come along, I would have probably been trying to deal with it. But I've learned through that that the scale for me is important for the size of project, and if I want to do divisional level stuff, that's just too much. So most of this will be sold, will be put on eBay or through the sales sites, or if anyone wants to get in contact with me after seeing what's here, I might be able to do you a deal. But it's not a sales video, this is not what it's about. But I will be keeping a little bit to play skirmish games with for sharp practice. But let's have a little look. So I think this is just sprues and things left over, but a completely untouched box of Victrix, French infantry, got the box of Perrys here, so British light dragoons, French hussars, some stuff I picked up on eBay. So there's some plastic Highlanders Victrix. I think I bought separate metal command for them somewhere here in this bundle. Some Perry British. We got some Victrix French and some Perry British down here. Victrix unopened foot artillery there. These I've reviewed on the channel. I won't be getting rid of those, but the British Riflemen, really nice. A couple of commanders there that haven't been wrapped away. You can see I had a plan because I've got all of these wonderful GMB flags here, which are absolutely gorgeous. The many basing systems. So I started off with the Renedra ones you get in the boxes, and then it was like, well, I quite like the slightly thicker Warlord ones. And then I decided I might want to play sharp practice. I was looking at different basing schemes. I've got these lovely movement trays and these curved squared bases from Victrix, and I will be keeping those, and I think I will, when I have my sharp practice force, I think I'm going to base them on those so that I could play a very small game of black powder or take part in a larger game should I want to. So I think I'll probably stick with about a brigade, which is still far more than I need, but 3 regiments of each side, so to speak. Loads of little extra bits. I think they're all the metal commands that go with the plastic regiments. Some made up artillery. I've built so much of it. I think I built all the standard inventory. So in this box here, which was the Waterloo box, there's lots of these. So there's even bases in there. So that's British. And there'll be a mixture of Perry and Warlord. I've mixed them up. Some have got pure Perry, some pure Warlord, but a lot of them are mixed as well. And they're based in, they're packs of 24 with their bases, all built, ready to paint. There's a bag again with lots of those bags in, including some metal artillery. So another one of those bags. So I think, well, I've definitely built 8 regiments of French, and I'm pretty sure I built 8 or 9 regiments of British, and they're all ready to go. On top of the other bits I've already showed you. So there is an awful lot there. It doesn't look as much when they're out of their boxes, but there's a whole Waterloo box there. There's 2 boxes of Perry British as well, plus all the other bits you've seen. So there's a lot. And that's where projects can go wrong if you don't plan them enough. So you've seen the pile of shame that I've got, and I'm going to get rid of most of that pile of shame, and I'll feel a lot better when it's gone. And for me, that's key. It's knowing that Napoleonic project is not going to happen, being really honest with myself and stripping it right down to keeping a few models that I'm going to need for skirmish level Napoleonics in the future, and I'm happy then to put it by. If I'll be tempted to sell the lot all in one go if someone wanted it and rebuy those things, but I'll probably keep just a handful of things that I've got. It didn't make sense to kind of sell and rebuy and lose money on it. But I'm happy with the historical projects I've got, but I'm at a limit, and I've learnt now that I can't add anything else until they've finished. And I really do want to do skirmish 28mm Napoleonics and American Civil War, and potentially Wars of the Roses. So I really want to use some of those beautiful Perry 28mm plastics, but I can't do it until I finish the next project. So when I finish the bolt action one, which is a fairly small 28mm project, then maybe I can bring one of those in. And I can't, like I mentioned before in the video, I can't do my small scale Napoleonics until I finish the epic scale American Civil War, and hopefully Warlord will help me out then by bringing out a box set early new year like they did with the last lot, and it'll be Napoleonics this time, and I'll finish this one off and start the next one, ideal world and all that kind of stuff. But what about yourselves? So I mentioned at the beginning of the video, how do you manage your own projects? Have you got too many? Have you sold some off? Are you thinking about selling them off because you got too many? How many failed projects have you got, Ken? So yeah, I'd love to hear from you what you think on those. How do you manage it? Do you find that mentally it becomes a problem for you if you've got too much going on, or does it not matter? You're happy to have loads and loads of projects on the go and you'll just dip into, and if they sit in a box for years, that's fine, because a lot of it's down to what you're comfortable with. Because if you spent the money and you've got the space to store it, then it doesn't really matter. And out of space, out of sight, out of mind is often the way to go. But thanks very much for watching the video. It's a bit of a different one, a bit of a weird one, but hopefully it was still enjoyable in one way or another. Check out the other stuff on the channel if bizarrely you found this video before you found any of the others, but lots of stuff on the channel. Do check out the other videos and give us a subscribe. Thank you very much. Take care.